Hello, and thank you for joining the How to Become a Professional Pilot seminar. Today, in this video, we're going to focus on the Integrated Airline Transport Pilot License, or the IATPL program, offered by Brampton Flight College and AeroCourse. My name is Rick Stevens. I'm president of AeroCourse. I'm also a senior captain at Air Canada, currently flying the Airbus A330.
And my name is Jessica Enke. I'm the manager for the IATPL program and an instructor with AeroCourse, and I fly the Airbus A220 at Air Canada.
Let's talk a little bit about AeroCourse. For over 30 years, we've been leaders in the advanced aviation training, specializing in advanced ground school. We've conducted thousands of hours of ground school seminar for pilots, and our instructors are highly experienced professional pilots. Our mission is to provide students with the required knowledge to become safety-oriented professional pilots. Building on the success of Brampton Flight College's program, BFC and AeroCourse have teamed up to create a joint training program to provide an integrated airline transport pilot license. This is a very structured and intensive program that takes students from 0 flight hours to airline-ready IATPL graduates. BFC provides flight training for the private and commercial licenses, as well as the multi-engine and instrument ratings. Once this is completed, the team of AeroCourse instructors provides the advanced portion of the IATPL program. What is the IATPL program? Well, it starts with the initial flight training, which is the private commercial license and the multi-engine IFR ratings, and that's normally done in small aircraft. Airline pilot training consists of airline operations, aircraft systems, environmental operations, simulator training, and that's done in medium and large aircraft. So back in the early 2000s, Transport Canada did a study and identified there's a training gap which is done in the initial flight training in small aircraft and the knowledge required in large aircraft at airline operations. So they introduced the Integrated Airline Transport Pilot License, and that's what we're going to go into detail discussing today. If we look at the components of effective flight crew performance, we have to look at the layers of safety. And that starts with airline operational procedures, advanced aircraft systems, crew procedures, standard operating procedures and checklists, multi-crew, crew resource management skills, and then personal pilot proficiency. And these are the basis of a very safe airline operation, and it's also the basis of our program. Candidates will graduate with an integrated airline transport license, advanced airline operational knowledge, multi-crew cooperation MCC skills. The advanced portion of the program consists of 2 phases. The first phase is the airline flight operations and airline transport pilot license ground school training. And the second phase consists of the multi-crew cooperational training. And this is what we call the practical side of the training. The program provides greater safety standards for young pilots through higher learning, flight operational procedures, aircraft systems for large aircraft, advanced communication and avionics, and environmental factors. Phase 1 syllabus consists of airline operations and ATPL ground school, and that consists of 31 days of instruction and approximately 220 hours. In that, we cover air carrier procedures and policies, Canadian air regulations as it pertains to airline operations. We cover advanced communications and navigation on auto flight, all modern aircraft avionics, including flight management systems and warning systems. As you can well imagine, these large aircraft are quite a bit more sophisticated than the smaller aircraft done in smaller training aircraft. We also cover environmental factors advanced meteorology, high-level flight operations, operations in hazardous conditions, advanced theory of flight, flight hazards. And of course, we cover high-level advanced aircraft systems, which is the main component of any airline training program. Let's talk about the course syllabus in phase 2. It consists of multi-crew cooperational training, or MCC. It teaches trainees to operate as co-pilots on multi-crew, multi-engine, multi-crew aircraft. It teaches trainees crew resource management skills. And it does the practical training is conducted in state-of-the-art simulator technology that we use CAE for. Why is this so important? Well, if we look at the growth in aviation over the last number of years, at 1970, there was about 15 million flight hours and annual departures. And closer to 2020, we're up close to 80 million. So there's been a tremendous growth over the last 50 years. Now, in contrast, the accident rate has gone down significantly over the last number of years. As well as if you look at the yellow bars, those are the technical failures. That means the failures of the specific aircraft. They've significantly been reduced. And the other two bars consist of human factors and other causes, which are kind of related to each other. If we see in the next slide, I'll point that out to you. The accident cause, only about 16% is related to technical issues. That's the systems in the aircraft and whatnot. It's the non-technical issues where most of the accidents are, and that sits at 84%. Now, if we look at the airline training over the last number of years, the technical items is 98% of all the training done at the airlines. The non-technical items is only 2%. So it's vitally important. And the airlines have started doing this, is focusing on the non-technical items. And that's what our program focuses on, is the non-technical items. Now I'm going to pass it off to Jessica to continue talking about the course syllabus in phase 2.
Thank you, Rick. So let's take a look at the details for the phase 2 syllabus. It starts with advanced human factors in multi-crew operations and a review of aviation psychology. And then we take a look at crew resource management, or CRM, and its application in practical situations. So we've seen this term crew resource management a few times now. And what that means is effectively using all of our available resources to assure a safe and efficient operation. And as you can imagine, it's a huge part of daily life as an airline pilot. Then we get into the Dash 8 ground school course, which is about 42 hours of training and covers Dash 8 systems, avionics and the flight management system, as well as in-depth standard operating procedures, also a huge part of the airline world, and briefings, as well as pre-simulator practice. Then we get into the MCC, or multi-crew coordination Dash 8 simulator training. This includes 8 4-hour sessions for a total of 32 hours. And each of those sessions is broken down into 2 2-hour flight legs, plus instructor briefings both before and after the session. We utilize the most advanced flight simulation technology at the CAE training facility here in Toronto. CAE specializes in aviation training, and they have simulator facilities all over the world. The simulator sessions are scenario-based, and we use something called line-oriented flight training, or LOFT, which is a very effective and realistic style of training that's used at the airline level. Each LOFT session is scripted as an actual flight in real time between 2 airports, giving the students a realistic idea of what it's like to fly a flight, both using normal procedures and also looking at emergency procedures as well. 4 of the sessions are conducted in an advanced Dash 8 flight training device, or FTD, and 4 sessions in the Dash 8 full flight simulator, which you can see pictured here. These are the exact same multi-million-dollar full motion machines that airlines use to train their pilots. So now let's talk about the program highlights. One of the major benefits of the IATPL program is that it allows students to write the ATPL exams, of which we have 2, as part of the program, and therefore automatically obtain Transport Canada's Airline Transport Pilot License accreditation upon completion of the regulatory flight hour requirements, and that's 1,500 hours of total time. And that's what we call a frozen ATPL. Outside of IATPL programs, those 2 exams can't be written until the candidate has at least 750 hours of experience. So having those exams written allows the student to be a co-pilot on a multi-crew aircraft after finishing the program, when otherwise they would have to wait. After completion of the program, candidates will have 5 years to acquire the necessary flight hours to obtain the ATPL license. Some other highlights include the teaching of advanced subjects not taught in other programs, like advanced navigation systems, flight management systems, airborne weather radar, and crew resource management. Students gain credentials and skills that are sought after by airlines, like multi-crew cooperation, leadership and managerial skills, situational awareness, decision-making and risk management. And again, we see that this is very important, crew resource management. It also provides solid experience for employment interviews, including resume building exercises, practice interviews, and of course the Dash 8 simulator experience, which gives students confidence for the simulator evaluations that are sometimes part of the airline interview process. In terms of instruction, our AeroCourse instructors are highly qualified instructors and airline pilots with thousands of hours of flight experience. And they have a wealth of experience. We have instructors who are simulator and ground school instructors, training and check pilots, and flight operations managers. Let's take a look at a review of the IATPL program now that we've kind of run through the syllabus. It's recognized under the Ontario Private Career Colleges Act. The course length is approximately 20 months. We have about 900 hours of total ground school and approximately 300 hours of advanced ground school. IATPL students are eligible to write the Transport Canada ATPL exams in the program and therefore qualify for the frozen ATPL that was mentioned before. They get 32 hours of experience in an advanced simulator and experience in a multi-crew environment, both really highly valuable to the airlines. And the flight training is highly structured into 7 different flying phases. So now that we've covered the program syllabus and highlights, let's circle back to the components of effective flight crew performance that Rick introduced earlier. We can look at the components in the form of what is called the Swiss cheese risk analysis model. In this model, threats like, for example, changing weather conditions or technical issues in aviation are mitigated using various layers of defense, which are the components like airline operational procedures, aircraft systems, and CRM that form the basis of the course. In this model, they're likened to pieces of Swiss cheese. The holes in the cheese represent deficiencies in the layers of defense, and when they line up, it could lead to an incident. Therefore, the more knowledge that students have in these subjects, the more we can fill that training gap and the more layers of defense they have to deal with threats effectively. And that's particularly when it comes to these CRM skills. A graduate of our program put it best when he said that it gave him the knowledge and ability to make better decisions. And this is truly our goal here. Airlines recognize the value of the IATPL program and the high quality of our graduates, and there are some amazing opportunities available to them. We'll talk about two of them here today. So first, we have our Air Canada Jazz Pathway program. Students that meet the JAZZ requirements will be offered interviews for first officer positions, and many of our past graduates have been hired directly from the program. The second one that we'll talk about is the Porter Airlines Mentorship Program. So successful candidates of the program are paired with a pilot mentor from Porter in this program, and will be offered an interview for a first officer position with much lower flight hours than other candidates outside of the program. It's worth mentioning here that our IATPL program first began back in 2014. And when we compare where our graduates have ended up to non-IATPL students, our graduates tend to be much further along from an industry standpoint and hired to airlines earlier, in part due to opportunities like these. And this is really important because a pilot's seniority at an airline is based on when they're hired and has a huge impact on the path of their career. So now I'm going to pass it back to Rick for a couple of videos.
We've set up two videos for you, and the first one is one of my flights that I did back in 2019 in the Boeing 767. We're in Calgary, and as you'll see, it's snowing, and that's the middle of September. And I want you to pay attention to the crew coordination we do in this video. So we'll get that started, and then we'll show you the second video of two of our graduates.
161, 064, B2169. We're LNAV up to 7,000 feet, no turns below 3,600. We leave the engine at 90, and then we're going to go 330 up to 5,400 feet.
Roger that. Clear to line up only, clear right.
Clear left. Right?
60%, yep. It's a release to reflect 59.2. Makes sure we have release score.
Excellent, thank you. Brakes back. Okay, all set.
All set.
Right, let them know we're ready to go.
Four five to PBR, cruise takeoff runway 35 left Air Canada 009.
And one.
Trust set. 80.
Roger.
B1, rotate.
Positive brake. Gear up. Hell down. VNAV, climb thrust, command center. N1 VNAV speed.
Roger. just going to Canada 009 5.
In this one, we have Tom and Sarah, and they are in their final session. And you see how far they've come and the crew coordination. Just pay attention to this. It's quite impressive.
Knots. B1. Rotate. Gear up. Heading. Fault south.
So you can see a lot of the common calls. They did it very professionally. They came a long way in a mere 20 months. And they should point out they both got hired direct out of the program to JAS.
Lastly, we wanted to touch on the future demand for pilots. Obviously, this time has been tough, and COVID-19 has caused a dip in travel. But forecasts like this one published by our training partner CAE just last year in 2020 show that there will still be a significant increase in demand for pilots over the next several years, which is very promising. By 2029, they forecast 484,000 active pilots worldwide, which will require an additional 45,000 business jet pilots and 219,000 airline pilots. This need takes into account both industry growth as well as replacing a large number of retiring pilots who are forced to retire at age 65. So we don't foresee that stopping. This means that a total worldwide demand for 264,000 new pilots over the next 10 years, with 65,000 new pilots needed in North America alone, is forecast. So despite what we're seeing right at this very moment, the long-term commercial aviation outlook remains really strong. If you'd like to check out the demand outlook in more detail, please visit the CAE website at the URL shown below. So thank you for your interest in how to become a professional pilot. We hope that you found the seminar helpful, and we know that there is a lot to take in. So if you would like more information or are interested in attending a live Q&A session about the program, please contact Kathy Stewart, who is the campus administrator of the college and IATPL programs at the Brampton Flight Center, at either her phone number or email below.
And on my behalf, I'd like to thank you as well. I know you have a lot of questions, so please reach out to Kathy. Take care now.